The Arizona Territory, 1885. A land where blood and dust mingled as freely as whiskey and water. Christine Matthews had survived frontier hardships that would break most men, but nothing prepared her for him. Shadow Wolf, the Apache warrior whose very name sent chills through settler camps. Standing beside him now, she watched his weathered hands check his rifle as sunset painted the mesa crimson. "Tonight you'll learn my power," he said, his voice like stones grinding together. She expected savagery from this man the army had hunted for years. Will she discover that true strength lies not in violence, but in mercy? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The schoolhouse bell rings, clear and sharp against the desert air. Christine Matthews stands in the doorway, her slender figure silhouetted against the whitewashed interior. 20 pairs of eyes, some blue, some brown, a few as black as obsidian, watch her every move. "Remember your compositions," she says, her Boston accent faded, but still detectable. "And Billy Samuels, I expect you to help your sister with her sums." The children scatter like quail, raising dust that catches the afternoon light. Christine touches the silver locket at her throat, a habit when she's troubled. Through the window she sees Marshal Blackwood posting a notice outside the general store. His shoulders, broad as a barn door, hunch forward as he hammers the paper in place. Inside the empty schoolhouse, Christine opens the locket. Her mother's tiny portrait stares back, painted when Boston society still welcomed the Matthews family. Before father's bankruptcy, before the desperate journey west, before the raid that took James and little Rose, Mrs. Matthews, she snaps the locket shut. Harriet Wheeler, the storekeeper's wife, stands in the doorway, her face pinched with concern. "Marshall's calling a town meeting tonight," Harriet says, twisting her apron between work-worn hands. "Says there's Apache trouble brewing," Christine sighs. "Shadow Wolf's people have kept the peace agreement for 2 years. Weren't talking about all Apache." Harriet lowers her voice. "Just him. Marshall says he's gathering warriors again. And you believe that?" Christine stacks primers with more force than necessary. "I believe a woman alone should mind who she defends." After Harriet leaves, Christine watches the townsfolk gather around the notice, their faces hardening as they read. Through the wavering heat, she spots Reverend Miller shaking his head in conversation with Dr. Cohen. At least some still remember how Shadow Wolf guided their wagons through Rattlesnake Pass during the drought, or how his knowledge of desert herbs helped when influenza swept through last winter. Christine locks the schoolhouse and walks the short distance to her cabin. Unlike the other dwellings with their hopeful flower beds, hers stands plain, functional as her life has become. The cabin had been meant for her family. Now it echoes with absence. She removes her locket, hanging it carefully beside the small mirror. Her fingers brush against the weathered Bible on her bedside table, but she doesn't open it. The pressed wildflowers marking James and Rose's favorite passages would only deepen the ache. As dusk approaches, lanterns illuminate the meeting hall. Christine slips in quietly, taking a seat near the back. Marshal Blackwood dominates the front, his voice carrying to the rafters. 3 homesteads raided south of here, he announces, thumbs hooked in his belt. Army says Shadow Wolf's been seen with painted braves near Diablo Canyon. That canyon's Apache hunting ground by treaty, Christine says, her voice cutting through the murmurs. They have every right to be there. Blackwood's gaze lands on her, cold as a rattler's. Mrs. Matthews, always quick to defend savages. "I defend the truth." "Marshal," she stands, feeling every eye upon her. "During the epidemic, Shadow Wolf's people shared their medicine when half this town was bedridden. Including you." Tense silence follows. Christine doesn't mention how she'd learned to prepare the bitter-smelling poultice at Shadow Wolf's grandmother's side, or how his steady hands had helped her tend the sickest children. "Times change." "Mrs. Matthews," Blackwood says finally, "I've ordered extra ammunition from Tucson. Until then, no one travels alone." Outside after the meeting, Christine pauses on the steps. The stars hang impossibly close, as if the vast sky might collapse upon them all. The distant howl of a coyote echoes her unease. That was brave, Dr. Cohen says, joining her. Foolish, perhaps, but brave. I won't stand silent while he spreads lies, she replies. The doctor studies her face. Be careful, Christine. The marshal hasn't forgotten how you contradicted him during the water rights dispute. Neither have the Apache, she says quietly. That's what truly bothers him. As she walks home alone, Christine feels the weight of the absent locket. Some connections can't be displayed openly anymore. Like her grudging respect for Shadow Wolf, like the strange flutter in her chest when remembering his quiet dignity, like the fear that somehow, this time, Blackwood might be right. Diablo Canyon glows copper and gold in the fading light. Shadow Wolf moves silently along the ridge, watching dust clouds rise from the distant trail. Raiders, not army, not settlers. Something worse. He kneels, fingers tracing the parched earth. 5 days since rain. 16 horses heavily loaded. Men who don't care for their mounts. Pushing too hard in this heat. Behind him, tall deer approaches, silent as falling snow despite his advancing years. The council must hear of this, the elder says in Apache. Shadow Wolf nods, rising in one fluid motion. Los Diablos. The same who attacked the mining camp near Tucson. Tall Deer's weathered face reveals nothing, but his eyes, sharp as a hawk's, narrow slightly. Some on the council will say this is not our concern. The raiders make no distinction between Apache and settler, Shadow Wolf replies, his voice like stones shifting underwater. Blood feeds their hunger, nothing more. They descend toward the Apache camp, hidden in a sheltered valley where spring water still flows. Children pause in their play to watch Shadow Wolf pass. Young warriors nod with respect. Mothers draw little ones closer, not from fear, but from awareness of what he represents. War, change, the old ways colliding with the new. At his dwelling, Shadow Wolf retrieves the scarred wooden flute from its place of honor. His fingers trace the mended crack running its length. 7 winters he had spent in the white man's prison at Fort Bowie, punishment for defending his people's water rights. There he had carved this flute from a broken fence post, its music his only freedom. The instrument's voice had drawn the attention of the fort commander's wife, a woman who saw beyond skin and language. She had smuggled him paper and pencil, taught him English letters. When influenza swept through the fort, Shadow Wolf had written down his grandmother's healing knowledge. Lives were saved, his sentence commuted, a bargain struck, peace between his band and the settlers around Salvation Creek. Now he plays a soft, mournful note. The sound carries memories of blood-soaked sand, of screaming horses, of his father falling beneath cavalry sabers. But it also carries newer memories. Children, Apache and White, playing together at the trading post. The quiet respect in Dr. Cohen's eyes when Shadow Wolf explained a healing plant. The schoolteacher, Christine Matthews, her hands steady as she helped bind wounds after the flash flood. The flute falls silent. Christine, a woman with eyes that held sorrow yet refused its weight. A woman who stood between her own people and injustice more than once. Little Raven appears at his doorway. Barely 13 summers yet already training as a scout. The elders gather, the boy announces. In the council lodge, smoke curls toward the open roof. Shadow Wolf takes his place, neither with the elders nor with the young warriors. His position, like his heart, stands between worlds. Shadow Wolf sees raiders coming, Tall Deer begins. The same who attacked south of Tucson. Swift knife, scarred from countless battles, spits into the fire. Let them kill the white eyes. Less enemies for us. The settlers at Salvation Creek have honored the agreement, Shadow Wolf counters. Their children attend school with ours at the trading post. Their doctor treats our sick. One season of peace does not erase generations of betrayal, argues Gray Fox, whose family died at Skeleton Canyon. Shadow Wolf removes the flute from his belt. This was broken as our people were broken. Yet it makes music again. His voice remains level, yet carries to every corner. I have walked in both worlds. The coming raiders destroy without honor. Apache, settler, Mexican, all the same to them. What would you have us do? Asked Tall Deer. Warn the settlement. Prepare our own defenses. Swift Knife laughs bitterly. And when Marshal Blackwood shoots you for approaching their town? Shadow Wolf's face remains impassive, but his fingers tighten on the flute. The lawman's hatred is a tangible thing, born of old conflicts and new fears. There are those who will listen, he says, thinking again of steady hands and clear eyes. Those who remember, we fought the sickness together. As the council deliberates into the night, Shadow Wolf stands at the edge of camp, playing his flute to the stars. The same stars that shine over Salvation Creek, the same stars his ancestors watched, the same stars that witness how easily peace can shatter, like clay pots dropped on stone. Apache. Rider coming in. The cry sends Salvation Creek into motion. Women usher children indoors. Men grab rifles from wall pegs. Reverend Miller rings the church bell, its warning peals echoing across sun-baked rooftops. Christine abandons her laundry, water still dripping from her fingers as she hurries toward the commotion. Marshal Blackwood already stands in the street center, revolver drawn, deputies flanking him like matching bookends. Through the dust cloud, a lone rider approaches. Even at distance, Christine recognizes Shadow Wolf's straight-backed posture, the way he seems part of the horse beneath him. "Hold there!" Blackwood calls when the Apache reaches the edge of town. Shadow Wolf reins his pinto to a stop, raising his empty hands slowly. No weapons visible, though Christine knows he would never be truly unarmed. "I come to speak with town leaders," Shadow Wolf says, his English precise if accented. "Raiders approach from the south. Not army, not Apache. Bad men." Blackwood's laugh carries no humor. "Convenient story. We just got word of attacks on homesteads." "Yes," Shadow Wolf agrees. 3 farms burned. "Same raiders." "They come here next." Dr. Cohen steps forward, his medical bag still in hand from a house call. "How many raiders? When will they arrive?" 16 men, Shadow Wolf answers, eyes scanning the gathered faces until they find Christine's. Something passes between them. Recognition, respect, uncertainty. "Heavy weapons." 4 days' ride. "Less if they push horses." "You've been spying on us," Blackwood accuses. "Tracking raiders," Shadow Wolf corrects. "They killed a Mexican family at Coyote Springs. Took nothing but ammunition and whiskey." Christine steps forward, despite Harriet Wheeler's restraining hand. "The Vasquez family." "There were children." Shadow Wolf's eyes darken. "No more." A murmur passes through the crowd. Christine sees it ripple like wind through prairie grass, fear giving way to something worse. "Convenient you're the only witness," Blackwood says, hand still on his revolver. Reverend Miller speaks up. "I suggest we hear him out, Marshal. Shadow Wolf's people have kept the peace these 2 years. They kept peace because army patrols increased," Blackwood counters. "Now troops are stretched thin with Geronimo still loose." Christine notices how Shadow Wolf's jaw tightens at the name, though his expression remains impassive. "Marshal," she interjects. "During the influenza outbreak, Shadow Wolf brought medicine when we needed it most. We might all consider that before turning away his warning." Blackwood's gaze shifts to her, cold with disapproval. "Mrs. Matthews, always ready to speak where you're not needed." "I speak where truth is needed," she replies, chin lifting. For a moment, silence hangs heavy as summer heat. Then Dr. Cohen clears his throat. "I propose a council meeting. Shadow Wolf can present his information, and we'll decide a course of action." After reluctant agreement, they convene in the church. Christine sits beside Mrs. Begay, an Apache woman married to a settler, both of them aware of the stares their friendship draws. Shadow Wolf describes the raiders in detail. Mexican outlaws, American deserters, Apache renegades, men united only by bloodlust and greed. Their leader, a scarred man called El Cuchillo, has sworn to claim the territory between Diablo Canyon and the settlement. When he finishes, arguments erupt like summer lightning. "We should evacuate to Fort Bowie." "Abandon our homes? Never." "Can't trust his kind, probably working with them." Christine watches Shadow Wolf absorb the suspicion, his dignity unchanged. She remembers how her husband James had dismissed similar warnings before the raid that took him and Rose. How different might her life be if someone had listened? When the arguing lulls, she stands. "I believe him." Simple words, yet they fall like stones in still water. Shadow Wolf's gaze meets hers, surprise briefly visible before his composure returns. Fine words from a widow woman, Blackwood snorts. You volunteering to stand guard, Mrs. Matthews? If necessary. Her hands don't tremble, though her heart races. I can shoot as straight as most men here. What does your tribe propose? Dr. Cohen asks Shadow Wolf directly. Some will fight, some will not. Shadow Wolf's honesty is unflinching. Old wounds heal slowly. As the meeting dissolves into factions, Shadow Wolf approaches Christine near the doorway. The woman teacher has courage, he says quietly. The woman teacher has sense, she corrects, and memory. His nod acknowledges her loss without pity. You should learn to track, to move silently. Why would you teach me? Something shifts in his eyes, concern perhaps, or some deeper emotion she cannot name. Because tonight, he says, voice low, you will learn my power, and it is not what you fear. Christine feels the words like a physical touch, startling and intimate. Before she can respond, he is gone, leaving only dust motes dancing in the doorway's light. Dawn paints the desert in shades of amber and rose. Christine waits at the edge of town, bonnet shading her eyes from the rising sun. Her sensible boots, sturdy for schoolroom duty, feel suddenly inadequate as she watches a dust cloud approach from the east. Shadow Wolf materializes from the landscape as if born from it. No dust betrays his path. His pinto pony treads with the same ghostly silence. You came, he says, dismounting in one fluid motion. I said I would. Christine straightens her spine. Though half the town thinks I'm consorting with the enemy, a ghost of a smile touches his lips. And the other half? Think I'm a fool who'll be scalped by breakfast. He studies her, gaze moving from her boots to her practical split skirt. The woman teacher is neither foolish nor my enemy, but those boots... He reaches into a saddlebag and extracts a pair of buckskin moccasins. First lesson. Christine examines the offering, soft-soled, beautifully beaded with geometric patterns. I can't accept these. They're too fine, not gift, tool. He points to her boots. Those speak to every creature, every warrior. These, he indicates the moccasins, these whisper only to the earth. After a moment's hesitation, Christine sits on a sun-warmed boulder and exchanges her boots for the moccasins. The leather feels supple against her stockinged feet. Now walk, Shadow Wolf instructs. Place ball of foot first, then heel. Feel the ground speak. Christine takes experimental steps. Without the familiar thud of boot heels, the world seems suddenly louder. Bird calls, insect hums, the whisper of wind through sage. The ground remembers all who pass, Shadow Wolf explains, kneeling to trace faint indentations she can barely discern. Here, jackrabbit running from hawk. He points to another mark. Here, deer 2 nights ago. With fawn, he guides her through reading sign, broken twigs, displaced pebbles, bent grass. Christine's frustration mounts as she fails to see what appears obvious to him. I'm too old to learn this, she sighs. After an hour of squinting at seemingly empty ground, Shadow Wolf makes a sound suspiciously like a suppressed chuckle. My grandmother learned tracking at 60 winters. After losing one eye, properly chastened, Christine tries again. This time, she glimpses what might be a coyote's passage through brush. Shadow Wolf's nod confirms her small success. By mid-morning, they reach a narrow arroyo. Shadow Wolf leads her to a hidden spring, the water crystal clear, despite the surrounding dust. As they drink, Christine notices fresh hoofprints. Horses, she says, pointing with tentative pride. Several, recently. Good. Shadow Wolf's approval warms her more than it should. Raider scouts, 6 horses. Men who do not water animals properly, Christine tenses. How recently? Yesterday. His expression darkens. They circle, study, before main group arrives. We should warn the town. Shadow Wolf shakes his head. Soon. First, you learn more. He removes a small object from his leather pouch, a curved piece of horn. Medicine woman tool. For bleeding, sickness, bloodletting. Christine frowns. Dr. Cohen believes that's outdated practice, not for blood removal. For poison drawing, Shadow Wolf demonstrates on a cactus pad, creating a precise vacuum seal. Rattlesnake bite, scorpion, spider, draw poison out. Christine accepts the tool, their fingers brushing. We lost 2 children to snakebite last summer. Dr. Cohen tried everything. This works if used quickly. His voice softens. Knowledge is power that harms no one. Your doctor should learn. They continue. Shadow Wolf teaching and Christine absorbing how to find water in seemingly barren ground, which plants soothe burns or fever, how to move with the landscape rather than against it. When Shadow Wolf suddenly freezes, Christine instinctively goes still. There, he whispers, indicating a distant ridge. At first she sees nothing. Then movement catches her eye, a mounted figure silhouetted against the sky. Raider Scout, she whispers. Yes. Watching settlement. Shadow Wolf guides her behind an outcropping. Now we return. Different path. As they make their way back, Christine realizes Shadow Wolf has led them in a wide circle around the scout. Her newfound awareness reveals signs of danger she would have missed hours earlier. Near the settlement edge, Shadow Wolf pauses. Tomorrow. Same time, Christine nods, then hesitates, gesturing to the moccasins. Should I return these? Keep them. Something like concern flickers across his face. Practice walking silently. Sleep lightly. The raiders come sooner than I thought. As he turns to leave, Christine calls softly, What you said last night. About your power. What did you mean? Shadow Wolf looks back, his expression unreadable against the setting sun. Power of knowledge freely given. Not all strength comes from weapons, Christine Matthews. The use of her name, the first time he's spoken it, lingers in the air between them like a promise. Or a warning. Consorting with savages now, Mrs. Matthews. The question cuts through the general store's usual afternoon bustle. Conversation halts. Christine feels every eye turned toward her as she places coffee and sugar on the counter. Martha Blackwood. The marshal's sister-in-law stands with arms crossed, her mouth pinched in righteous indignation. Behind her, 2 women from the church auxiliary nod in grim agreement. I'm learning survival skills, Mrs. Blackwood. Christine replies evenly, counting out coins. Knowledge that might benefit us all. Benefit? Martha's laugh rings sharp as breaking glass. Folks saw you this morning wearing heathen footwear, following that Apache like a devoted puppy. Heat rises in Christine's cheeks. Shadow Wolf brought warning of raiders. I'd think the Marshal's family would appreciate any intelligence that protects this settlement. Harold Wheeler clears his throat behind the counter. Ladies, perhaps this discussion is necessary, Martha interrupts. The town charter promises safety. How safe are we with her opening our defenses to Apache? That's quite enough. Dr. Cohen's voice, accustomed to cutting through fever dreams and childbirth panic, silences the store. He stands in the doorway, medical bag in hand. Mrs. Matthews nursed half this town through influenza. She's earned the right to make her own judgments. Christine gathers her purchases, grateful yet embarrassed by the defense. The town meeting votes on defense plans tonight. I suggest we all attend, rather than whisper accusations. Outside, autumn sunlight does nothing to warm the chill between her shoulder blades. 3 days of lessons with Shadow Wolf have sharpened her awareness of watching eyes. Not just from the settlement. Don't let them trouble you, Dr. Cohen says, falling into step beside her. Fear makes fools of sensible people. It's not their fear that concerns me. Christine adjusts her bonnet against the glare. Marshal Blackwood visited the school today. Questioned the children about what I teach regarding Indians. Cohen's grey eyebrows rise. Surely he doesn't suspect you of... He suspects anyone who contradicts him. She lowers her voice. Shadow Wolf spotted raider scouts yesterday. They're closer than we thought, watching our routines, our defenses. Have you told Blackwood? I tried. He suggested I was being manipulated by Apache lies. They pause before the meeting hall, where the town charter hangs in its gilt frame. Christine remembers the day it was unveiled, James standing proud among the founding families. The promises of justice and fairness now ring hollow. Something's not right with the marshal, she confides. He's been riding out alone at night, returning before dawn. Cohen frowns. Perhaps following up on the raider reports. Without deputies? Without informing the council? Christine shakes her head. And there's more. Shadow Wolf found unfamiliar tracks near the canyon pass. Shod horses, but not military. Meeting with someone. Careful with such speculations, Cohen warns. Blackwood has powerful friends at the territorial capital. The meeting hall fills quickly that evening. Christine notes the invisible line dividing those who trust Shadow Wolf's warning from those who share Blackwood's suspicion. Fewer sit on her side than yesterday. When Reverend Miller calls for defense proposals, Blackwood steps forward confidently. I've wired Fort Bowie. They'll dispatch a cavalry patrol, his voice carries to the rafters. Meanwhile, we double guards, restrict movement, and most importantly, his gaze fixes on Christine. No further contact with Apache. Anyone violating this puts the settlement at risk. The cavalry won't arrive for days, Christine objects, rising. Shadow Wolf offers scouts early warning. Mrs. Matthews, Blackwood cuts her off. Your unnatural interest in this particular Apache has been noted. Perhaps grief has clouded your judgment. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Even Blackwood's supporters look uncomfortable at the direct attack. My judgment sees clearly, Marshal. Christine's voice remains steady despite her racing heart. You forbid help from those who know this land best. One might question your judgment. Careful, Mrs. Matthews. Blackwood's hand rests on his holstered revolver. Some might call that seditious talk. Dr. Cohen stands. This helps nothing. We face external threats. Why fight amongst ourselves? Precisely my point. Blackwood smiles without warmth. Which is why all Apache, including our friendly Shadow Wolf, are forbidden from settlement boundaries until further notice. The vote passes despite Cohen's objections. Christine watches faces she's known for years, people whose children she teaches, whose wounds she's bandaged, avoid her gaze as they side with Blackwood. Later, walking home alone, Christine senses movement in the shadows. Her hand closes around the small knife Shadow Wolf gave her for protection. It's me. His voice comes softly from the darkness. You shouldn't be here, she whispers. Blackwood's orders. Blackwood meets with raiders. Shadow Wolf's words fall like stones. I followed his trail. 3 nights now. He speaks with El Cuchillo's lieutenant. Christine's blood runs cold. You're certain? As certain as sunrise. His eyes reflect starlight. The settlement is betrayed from within, and you... He hesitates. You are in danger for defending me. She thinks of Martha's accusations, Blackwood's public rebuke, neighbors turning away. I'm already alone, she admits. What difference does more danger make? Shadow Wolf's hand briefly touches her arm, the first time he has initiated contact. Not alone, he says quietly. In that moment, standing between shadow and light, Christine realizes she believes him. Pressure's dropping fast, Dr. Cohen observes, tapping the barometric glass on his office wall. The liquid inside has sunk lower than Christine has ever seen it. Storm coming from the southeast. Christine looks up from rolling bandages. Outside, the afternoon sky has turned the color of a faded bruise. The same direction as the raiders. Nature adding its own complications. Cohen sighs, returning to his inventory of medical supplies. 32 bottles of carbolic acid, 12 ounces of laudanum. Enough chloroform for perhaps 5 major procedures. Not enough if there's serious fighting, Christine concludes. No. Cohen's hands, steady during countless surgeries, tremble slightly as he arranges scalpels. I've seen battlefield hospitals during the war. I pray we're overreacting. Thunder rumbles in the distance as Christine finishes her work. The town has transformed in the 3 days since Blackwood's decree. Barricades block side streets. Armed men patrol rooftops. Families have consolidated into larger buildings, leaving outlying homes empty. Yet something is missing from these preparations. Purpose, coordination. The settlement responds like a body without a brain. Each part moving independently without unified direction, because their leader is the betrayer. Christine has shared Shadow Wolf's revelation with only Cohen and Reverend Miller. Without proof, accusations against the Marshal would only deepen divisions when unity is desperately needed. The Apache are preparing as well, she tells Cohen quietly. Shadow Wolf says many families have moved to higher caves. Young warriors paint for battle despite the elder's caution. You've seen him again? Cohen asks sharply. Christine, if Blackwood discovers, he won't. She secures the final bandage roll. We meet at the old boundary stone. Shadow Wolf teaches me settlement defense through Apache eyes, approaches they might use, weaknesses in our preparations. Risky, Cohen mutters. Necessary perhaps, but risky. The office door bursts open. 16-year-old Billy Wheeler stands breathless in the doorway, rifle clutched awkwardly in gangly arms. Dr. Cohen! Mrs. Matthews! Marshall wants everyone at the meeting hall. Riders spotted approaching from the south. The hall buzzes with tension when they arrive. Blackwood stands on a chair, his imposing height made towering by the elevation. 2 riders approaching under white flag, he announces. Claim to be negotiators from El Cuchillo's band. I'll hear what they have to say. Alone. Christine's question rises above murmurs of concern. Blackwood's gaze finds her, cold as a rattlesnake's, with deputies. Mrs. Matthews, your Apache friend isn't invited. They should be heard in public, Reverend Miller suggests. So all may witness their proposals. After tense discussion, the settlement agrees. As preparations are made, Christine slips away. The first heavy raindrops strike her face as she hurries toward the boundary stone. Praying Shadow Wolf waits there despite the approaching storm. She finds him sheltered beneath a rocky overhang, water already streaming from his raven-black hair. Riders coming, she gasps. Under white flag, negotiators. Shadow Wolf's expression hardens. Not negotiation, deception. They study defenses, count guns, look for weakness. Blackwood agreed to meet them. Of course. Bitterness edges his voice. The snake shows his friends the way inside. Lightning flashes across the darkened sky, momentarily illuminating the concern in Shadow Wolf's eyes. You should not return, he says. Come with me to my people's shelter. For one heartbeat, Christine considers it, escape from suspicion, from Blackwood's malevolence, from the coming violence. I can't abandon them, she says finally. Children, elders, they're not responsible for Blackwood's treachery. Shadow Wolf nods, resignation mingling with respect. Then I will come. Blackwood's orders mean nothing against greater law. He retrieves something wrapped in hide from beneath the overhang, a short bow and quiver of arrows. My father's, smaller than mine. Better for woman's hands. Christine stares at the offering. I don't know how. You learn quickly. He places it in her hands. When rifles are empty. This still speaks. Silent, deadly, the weapon feels impossibly ancient and immediate simultaneously, smooth wood polished by generations of hands. I may not have time to teach you properly, Shadow Wolf continues, but remember, draw with back muscles, not arms. Breathe out as you release. Aim high when distance is great. The storm breaks in earnest as they make their way toward town, moving between sentries with the stealth Shadow Wolf has taught her. Rain lashes in horizontal sheets. Thunder cracks overhead like celestial rifles. At the settlement's edge, Shadow Wolf pauses. I follow when darkness is complete. Look for me near the stables. Be careful, Christine urges. Many here shoot at shadows now. His hand briefly clasps hers. I am Shadow Wolf. Shadows are my brothers. As Christine rejoins the townsfolk gathered at the meeting hall, lightning illuminates riders approaching through curtains of rain. She counts not 2, but 4 mounted figures. Reverend Miller notices her drenched appearance. Mrs. Matthews, where? Checking the schoolhouse roof, she lies. It's leaking again. Inside, she finds Cohen studying his barometric glass, now fallen to its lowest point. Storms directly overhead, he murmurs. Yes, Christine agrees. Thinking of riders in the rain, of Shadow Wolf moving through darkness, of Blackwood's hidden treachery, and about to break upon us all. Rain transforms the settlement's main street into a river of mud. 4 riders materialize through the downpour, approaching the meeting hall, where most of Salvation Creek's residents have gathered. Hold there, Marshal Blackwood calls out, standing beneath the overhang with deputies flanking him. His expression betrays nothing as the riders halt 20 yards away. The leader, a Mexican man with a face like weathered leather, raises his hand in greeting. "We come to talk only, Marshal. My patron, El Cuchillo, offers terms. Dismount and approach. Alone." Blackwood's voice carries authority that even Christine must acknowledge. Dr. Cohen leans close to her ear. "Something's wrong. Why negotiate when they could simply attack?" Christine watches the lead rider dismount, while his companions remain on horseback, hands conspicuously visible. They're stalling, waiting for something. Cohen's eyes widen with understanding. The main force, using the storm as cover. Lightning flashes, illuminating the scene in stark white. In that instant, Christine notices what others miss. One rider subtly scanning rooftops, counting guards, assessing defenses. Not negotiators, scouts. The lead rider approaches, stopping 10 feet from Blackwood. "My patron controls the territory south to Nogales now. He offers protection to this settlement for reasonable tribute." "Protection from what?" Blackwood asks, playing his role perfectly. "Many dangers in these times. Apache, bandits, thirst." The man smiles, revealing gold teeth. "The dam above your settlement, very important, yes? Would be terrible if anything happened to it." Murmurs ripple through the gathered townsfolk. "The dam channels critical water for crops and livestock. Without it, Salvation Creek would wither within weeks. Blackwood affects consideration." "These are serious matters. Perhaps we should discuss privately." "I smell smoke," a voice interrupts from the crowd. Heads turn. Beyond the settlement's southern edge, an orange glow pulses through the rain-swept darkness. The Pearson place. Someone shouts, "It's burning!" Chaos erupts. The negotiator's hand moves to his jacket, reaching for something concealed. Christine opens her mouth to shout warning, but another voice beats her to it. "Weapons!" Shadow Wolf's cry comes from nearby shadows. The negotiator draws a bone-handled knife, lunging toward Blackwood with practiced speed. But Blackwood, surprisingly agile, sidesteps and draws his revolver in one smooth motion. 2 shots crack through the storm's rumble. The negotiator crumples into the mud, blood mixing with rainwater. The mounted riders break formation, one firing wildly into the crowd. A woman screams as a bullet finds flesh. The remaining townsfolk scatter for cover. Christine ducks behind a water trough as gunfire erupts from multiple directions. She glimpses Shadow Wolf moving like his namesake through chaos, tackling one rider from his horse. Dr. Cohen appears beside her, medical bag clutched to his chest. "The Wheeler boy's hit. Need to reach him." "Wait." Christine grabs his sleeve as bullets splinter wood above them. "I'll draw their fire." Before he can protest, she crawls to the edge of their shelter and unslings the Apache bow. Shadow Wolf's instructions echo in her mind as she nocks an arrow, draws with her back muscles, and releases on an exhale. The arrow flies true, striking a raider's thigh. His howl of pain creates momentary confusion among the attackers, allowing Cohen to dash to the fallen boy. Christine nocks another arrow, but hesitates as she notices Blackwood's strange behavior. Rather than pursuing the fleeing riders, he's retrieving something from the dead negotiator's jacket, a folded paper that he quickly tucks into his own coat. Gunfire diminishes as the remaining raiders retreat into storm darkness. Townsfolk emerge cautiously from hiding places, moving to help the wounded. Shadow Wolf appears beside Christine, silent despite the mud. Blood trickles from a graze along his cheekbone. "You're hurt," she says, reaching toward the wound. "Small pain." He dismisses it, eyes scanning the aftermath. "They tested defenses only. Learned settlement layout. Main force still comes. The Pearson homestead diversion. Empty building." Shadow Wolf's gaze fixes on Blackwood, who directs deputies with apparent authority. "He took something from Deadman. I saw." Christine describes the folded paper. "And the negotiator. His knife had a bone handle carved with a face. I've never seen its like." Shadow Wolf's expression darkens. "'Tis Itzimitl knife. Death goddess of old Mexico. El Cuchillo's mark." He picks up the fallen weapon, studying its gruesome handle. Not negotiation. Blood ritual. First offering before main slaughter. The implications chill Christine more than the rain soaking her clothes. They never intended peace. No, and Blackwood knows this. Shadow Wolf conceals the knife in his buckskin shirt, evidence of his treachery. "Keep safe," Reverend Miller calls for volunteers to extinguish the burning homestead. In the commotion, few notice Christine speaking with Shadow Wolf or the blood staining his sleeve. 3 wounded, none dead, Shadow Wolf reports. Raiders lost 2. Small victory. What about the dam? Christine asks. If they control our water, already sent 2 young warriors to guard it. His hand briefly touches hers. You used the bow well. Before she can respond, Dr. Cohen approaches urgently. Christine, I need help with the wounded. Shadow Wolf melts back into shadows as she follows Cohen to the makeshift infirmary in the church. Inside, groaning wounded lie on pews converted to beds. As Christine washes blood from her hands, minutes later, she catches Blackwood watching her with cold calculation. His gaze shifts momentarily to the Apache bow, leaning in the corner, then back to her face. In that instant, Christine realizes her position has just become far more dangerous. Midnight finds Christine alone in Marshal Blackwood's office, heart hammering against her ribs. Rain still drums on the roof, providing cover for her illicit search. Through the window, she can see deputies huddled beneath the jailhouse overhang, sharing a bottle to calm nerves still jangled from the afternoon's violence. It must be here somewhere, she whispers, fingers rifling through desk drawers. The folded paper Blackwood took from the dead raider has to contain proof of his treachery. 3 wounded men rest in the church, tended by Dr. Cohen. 14-year-old Tommy Wheeler may lose his arm. All because of whatever game Blackwood plays with El Cuchillo. The bottom drawer sticks, then yields to her persistent tugging. Inside lies a leather portfolio bearing an unfamiliar silver seal. Christine extracts it carefully, fingers trembling as she unties the binding. Lamplight reveals multiple documents, maps with shaded areas, letters on company stationery, and a formal deed with both Blackwood's signature and an official territorial seal. The heading reads, Silver Basin Mining Company, exclusive rights to mineral extraction. As Christine reads, bile rises in her throat. The deed grants extensive mining rights to land, encompassing both Salvation Creek and Apache territory in Diablo Canyon. A handwritten note in the margin specifies payment contingent upon clear title, no occupants. A floorboard creaks behind her. Christine spins, clutching the documents. As the office door swings open, found what you're looking for, Mrs. Matthews? Marshal Blackwood fills the doorway, revolver drawn. Rain drips from his hat brim. You sold us out, she says, surprised at her steady voice. Your own town. Then these people sacrificed everything to build. Land sitting on the richest silver deposit in the territory. Blackwood steps inside, closing the door. More wealth than this backwater would see in 100 years of dirt farming. So you made a deal with El Cuchillo to drive us out. Christine clutches the portfolio tighter. And the Apache, too. Blackwood smiles thinly. The mining company needs clear title. Raiders attack, settlers flee. Territorial governor declares the area unsafe for civilians. Meanwhile, the army finally has reason to remove the Apache threat. Clean and simple, except for the dead. The wounded. Christine edges toward the window. Children like Tommy Wheeler. Unfortunate. Blackwood shrugs. But progress demands sacrifice. This territory can't advance with savages controlling half the mountains and stubborn farmers the rest. You were supposed to protect us. I'm protecting your future. You just can't see it, he extends his hand. The documents, Mrs. Matthews, so you can destroy the evidence. Christine calculates the distance to the door. Too far with Blackwood between them. Those papers won't help you. My partners include a territorial judge and the governor's brother-in-law. Blackwood's expression hardens. Now I understand your peculiar friendship with that Apache. Both of you standing in the way of progress. Christine glances at the window. Deputies still visible outside. No escape there. Shadow Wolf knows what you're doing, she says, playing for time. His scouts watch the dam, the canyon passes. Savages with bows against modern rifles. Against what's coming? Blackwood laughs. El Cuchillo brings 30 hardened fighters tomorrow. Men who've raided from Sonora to Texas. The slip confirms her worst fears. You know when they're coming. You've planned it with them. Enough talk. Blackwood steps closer, gun unwavering. The documents. Now, a shadow passes the frosted window. The deputies outside laugh at something, oblivious to the confrontation within. "You won't shoot me," Christine says with more confidence than she feels. "Too many questions. You're becoming hysterical, Mrs. Matthews. Grief and fear affecting your mind." Blackwood's smile chills her. "I'd hate to have Dr. Cohen commit you for your own protection." The threat hangs in air, suddenly thick with danger. Christine's options narrow to a desperate few. The window explodes inward with a crash of breaking glass. Shadow Wolf lands in a crouch between them, water streaming from his buckskin clothing. Before Blackwood can react, the Apache's hand strikes like a snake, knocking the revolver aside. The weapon discharges into the ceiling, splinters raining down. "Run!" Shadow Wolf commands. Grappling with the larger man, Christine darts past them, clutching the portfolio. Outside, deputies scramble toward the commotion, drawing weapons. She runs blindly through sheeting rain, skirts heavy with mud. Behind her, more gunshots, shouting. Had Shadow Wolf escaped? Or a hand clamps over her mouth, pulling her into shadow beside the livery stable. "Quiet," Shadow Wolf whispers against her ear. Christine sags with relief, following as he leads her through the settlement's darkest spaces, between buildings, beneath wagons, through drainage culverts. Finally, they reach the abandoned blacksmith's shop at the settlement's edge. Inside, Shadow Wolf lights a small tallow candle. Blood stains his left sleeve. "You're shot," Christine gasps. "Grazed only." He examines the wound dismissively before nodding at the portfolio. "You found proof?" Christine spreads the documents on a dusty anvil. "Mining company. Silver deposit under both settlement and canyon. Blackwood gets rich if the land is cleared of people." Shadow Wolf studies the deed, finger tracing the map's boundaries. "Much blood for shiny metal. He says El Cuchillo brings 30 men tomorrow." Christine's hands tremble with delayed shock. "He called you savages." Something dangerous flashes in Shadow Wolf's eyes. Many have died with that word on their lips. Outside, voices call Christine's name. The deputies' search expanding. "We must go," Shadow Wolf says. "Not safe now." "Where?" "My people's shelter. Only choice." Christine thinks of her small cabin, her classroom, the life she's built. All poisoned by Blackwood's betrayal. Yes, she decides, clutching the evidence that might save both their peoples. "Take me to your tribe." As they slip into rain-soaked darkness, Christine realizes she has crossed a boundary more significant than any territorial line. There can be no return to what was before, only forward into shadow and storm. Dawn breaks over Diablo Canyon, painting stone walls with amber light. Christine, exhausted from the night's desperate journey, follows Shadow Wolf up a nearly invisible path carved into rock. Her borrowed moccasins move silently over terrain that would have defeated her boots. "Your people live here?" she asks, surveying the seemingly impenetrable cliff face. "Some, when danger threatens." Shadow Wolf points to cleverly disguised openings in the rock. "Ancestors' hiding places. Many generations. They climb higher, eventually reaching a broad shelf concealed from below. Here the Apache have established a temporary village, brushwood shelters. Small cooking fires with smoke dispersed through natural chimneys. Children and elders going about morning routines. Activity halts as Christine appears. Women gather children close. Warriors reach for weapons. An elderly man approaches, his face deeply etched with years. Despite his age, he carries himself with unmistakable authority. In his hand, he clutches an ornate cedar stick adorned with eagle feathers and turquoise inlay. Shadow Wolf straightens respectfully. "Grandfather," he greets in Apache, then switches to English for Christine's benefit. "This is Tall Deer, our band's wisdom keeper." Tall Deer studies Christine with eyes sharp as flint. "You bring a white woman to our sanctuary," he observes, a voice betraying neither approval nor condemnation. "She brings proof of treachery," Shadow Wolf answers, indicating the portfolio Christine carries. "And courage that honors any people." Tall Deer gestures with the decorated stick. "Council will hear." There's two. He turns, expecting them to follow. They enter a larger cave where a fire burns in a central pit. Around it sit men and women of various ages, some whose faces reflect suspicion, others curiosity. Christine recognizes Mrs. Begay, who trades at the settlement. "You know me," Christine addresses her in greeting. "I've always dealt fairly with your people." Mrs. Begay nods once, but offers nothing more. The council forms a circle. Tall Deer indicates Christine should sit beside Shadow Wolf. He remains standing, raising the adorned stick. "This talking stick has passed through 20 generations," he explains in careful English. "When one holds it, others must listen with open ears and closed mouths. Even enemies deserve this respect." He passes the stick to Shadow Wolf, who recounts the night's events: Christine's discovery, Blackwood's confession, their narrow escape. When he mentions the silver mine deed, murmurs ripple through the gathering. "White eyes always want what lies beneath our feet," an older warrior mutters. Shadow Wolf passes the talking stick to Christine. Its polished surface feels warm against her palms, smooth from countless hands before hers. The weight of expectant gazes settles upon her. "I came believing our peoples could live separately but respectfully," she begins, voice steadier than she feels. "Now I understand that Blackwood and those behind him want both your land and ours. They use the raiders as their weapon." She spreads the mining documents before the council. "This deed promises Blackwood wealth if the land is cleared. The raiders attack tomorrow with 30 men. They expect no warning, no preparation." A younger warrior leans forward. "Why should we defend White Settlement? Let raiders and settlers kill each other. Because afterward, with settlement destroyed, the army will come," Christine answers. "They'll claim Apache raiders were responsible. This land," she gestures toward the canyon beyond, "will never be yours again." Silence follows her words. Tall Deer reclaims the talking stick, passing it around the circle. Each speaker offers perspective, some arguing for isolation, others for alliance, a few for immediate attack. When the stick returns to Tall Deer, he turns to Shadow Wolf. "What says the one who walks between worlds?" Shadow Wolf stands. "We fight together or die separately. No other path remains." Swift Knife, the scarred warrior who advocated abandoning the settlers, rises in challenge. "You trust white words too easily. Your judgment is clouded by this woman." "My judgment sees clearly," Shadow Wolf responds without heat. "I have watched Christine Matthews defend truth, even when standing alone. She risked death to bring us warning." Swift Knife gestures dismissively. "One good white woman does not erase generations of broken promises." "No," Shadow Wolf agrees unexpectedly. "But she represents possibility. What might be built if we choose something beyond old hatreds?" Tall Deer raises the talking stick, silencing further debate. "We will vote when sun touches midday stone. Until then, consider wisely." As the council disperses, Christine feels the weight of scrutiny from all sides. Children peek at her from behind their mothers' skirts. Elders whisper among themselves, casting glances her way. Shadow Wolf guides her to a small alcove where fresh water trickles from rock into a natural basin. "Rest," he advises. "Long journey. Longer day ahead. Will they help?" she asks, splashing cool water on her face. "Some will. Some will not." His expression reveals rare uncertainty. "Much history stands between our peoples and us." The question slips out before she can reconsider. Shadow Wolf's gaze holds hers. In daylight, she notices flecks of amber in his dark eyes, unexpected warmth in a face carved by hardship. "Between us," he says finally, "stands something stronger than history." He doesn't name this something, but as he leaves her to rest, Christine feels its power, fragile yet enduring. Like the first green shoot after devastating fire, midday comes and goes. The tribal council's decision, narrowly favoring alliance with the settlement, leaves the camp in controlled flurry. Young warriors prepare weapons. Elders gather medicinal plants. Women pack essentials, ready to move deeper into canyon hideaways if necessary. Christine helps where she can, grinding herbs with Tall Deer's wife, learning their properties through gestures and broken translation. Most Apache remain distant, watching her with wary eyes. She understands. She represents a people who have rarely kept promises. Shadow Wolf appears as afternoon shadows lengthen. "Come," he says simply. He leads her to a narrow trail winding higher into the canyon. Neither speaks as they climb, the silence comfortable between them. Eventually they reach a small cave entrance, almost invisible against the rock face. "My dwelling," Shadow Wolf explains, gesturing for her to enter. Inside, the space opens surprisingly wide. A sleeping pallet of soft hides lies along one wall. Weapons hang from carefully placed pegs. Herbs and roots dangle from the ceiling, filling the air with earthy fragrance. Small treasures occupy natural shelves in the rock. Carved figures, unusual stones, a cluster of hawk feathers. "You live alone?" Christine asks, noting the single sleeping place. "Since grandmother joined ancestors." 5 winters passed. Shadow Wolf kneels, retrieves something wrapped in soft deerskin from beneath his pallet. "This belonged to my parents." He unfolds the wrapping to reveal a shallow basket with intricate geometric patterns woven in black. "White and warm reddish-brown wedding basket," he explains, fingers tracing the patterns. "Shows path of life. Beginning here," he indicates the center, "then outward through challenges, joys, sorrows." His finger follows the spiral pattern. Path continues until joining the ancestors. Christine sits beside him, drawn to the basket's beauty. "Your parents, what happened to them?" "Father died fighting cavalry at Skeleton Canyon. Mother followed 3 moons later." His voice remains even, but Christine senses deep currents beneath. "I was 14 winters. I'm sorry." The words feel inadequate against such loss. It was another life. Shadow Wolf places the basket between them. "Why did you defend me to your people, even before you knew Blackwood's treachery?" The directness of his question startles her. Christine considers carefully before answering. "When my husband and daughter were killed, many offered sympathy, but few saw me, the person remaining." She meets his gaze steadily. "You saw me, not just a widow, not just a white woman. During the influenza outbreak, you looked at me as an equal. You worked without rest, without fear of sickness." "Strong spirit." Shadow Wolf nods slightly. Why did white woman with strong spirit stay in place that valued her so little? The question pierces years of unexamined choices. Where else would I go? Boston society had no place for a bankrupt merchant's daughter. Here at least I could teach, help others. And now, Shadow Wolf asks quietly, where does Christine Matthews go when raiders are defeated? If they're defeated, she corrects. When, he insists, unexpected conviction in his voice. Outside, thunder rumbles. The storm that has threatened since morning approaches from the west, heavy clouds rolling over canyon walls. I can't return to Salvation Creek, Christine admits. Not with Blackwood's allies and territorial government. Even with proof, they'll discredit me, perhaps worse. You could go elsewhere. Many settlements need teachers. Is that what you think I should do? She studies his face, trying to read emotions kept carefully controlled. What I think... Shadow Wolf begins, then pauses. He switches to Apache, speaking a phrase she doesn't understand. What does that mean? It means, he searches for words. Heart and mind speak different tongues. A drumbeat of rain begins outside, intensifying to steady downpour. The cave entrance becomes a curtain of water, isolating them from the world beyond. When you say, tonight you'll learn my power, Christine asks, what power did you mean? Power of patience, of knowledge. Shadow Wolf places another small log on the fire. Power to protect without destroying. My father knew only war power. It consumed him, left nothing but ash. And what you feel now. His gaze meets hers, more open than she's ever seen. Power I did not seek, did not expect. Christine feels herself drawn toward him like iron to lodestone. I've lost one family. I don't know if I'm strong enough to risk that pain again. Strength comes in many forms, Shadow Wolf says softly. The willow bends with storm but does not break. The oak stands rigid and falls. Which am I? She whispers. Neither, both. His hand reaches tentatively, fingers brushing a strand of hair from her face. You are Christine. That is enough. The simple declaration unlocks something tightly held within her. Tears come suddenly, not of grief or fear, but release. Years of carefully maintained control dissolving like salt in rain. Shadow Wolf makes no move to touch her again, but his presence itself offers comfort. He waits, patient as the stones around them, until her tears subside. "Tomorrow we face raiders," he says finally. "Tonight we face truth between us." "And what is that truth?" she asks, voice steady once more. Shadow Wolf glances down at the wedding basket between them, its spiral pattern illuminated by firelight, that our paths, once separate, now weave together. His eyes meet hers. "Whether for one day or many seasons, I do not know, but I walk beside you willingly." Outside, thunder echoes through the canyon, nature's affirmation of words that change everything. Morning brings clearer skies and grim news. 2 young Apache scouts return breathless to the canyon camp, their report sending ripples of tension through the gathered warriors. "Blackwood has 15 men riding this way," Shadow Wolf translates for Christine. "Not following usual trails, coming directly to hidden passes. How would he know those routes?" she asks, dread settling in her stomach. "Someone guides them." Shadow Wolf's expression darkens. "Someone who knows our ways." Swift knife spits on the ground. Diego, the half-blood who left 3 seasons ago. Tall Deer raises the talking stick, restoring order. After brief counsel, decisions come swiftly. Women, children, and elders will move deeper into the canyon's secret places. Warriors will split, some to protect their families, others to prepare for the coming raiders, and a small group to confront Blackwood's approaching force. "I'm coming with you," Christine tells Shadow Wolf as he checks his weapons. "Too dangerous," he objects. "Blackwood wants you silenced." "Precisely why I should face him." She lifts her chin, brook no argument. "The settlement needs to hear the truth from me directly." Before he can respond, a commotion rises at the canyon's lower approach. A lone rider on a lathered horse, racing toward the Apache camp. As warriors take defensive positions, Christine recognizes the rider's familiar black coat. "Dr. Cohen." She breathes in disbelief. The physician reins his exhausted mount to a halt before reaching the first defensive position, hands raised to show peaceful intent. 2 Apache warriors escort him into camp, where Shadow Wolf and Christine await. "Thank God," Cohen gasps upon seeing her. "You're alive." "Blackwood told everyone the Apache had murdered you." "What?" Christine's shock gives way to anger. "That's absurd." Cohen dismounts stiffly, his age showing in the grimace that crosses his weathered face. "There's more. After you fled, Blackwood produced this." He reaches into his coat, extracting an official-looking document bearing the territorial governor's seal. Christine scans the warrant with growing outrage. "This claims I stole settlement funds and Shadow Wolf assaulted deputies." "It's completely fabricated." "Of course it is," Cohen agrees wearily. "But Blackwood has deputies swearing to whatever he tells them. And this," he taps the governor's seal, "carries weight. He's convinced most of the settlement you've been corrupted or coerced by Shadow Wolf." Shadow Wolf studies the document, expression unreadable. "This paper means nothing against truth." "Truth needs witnesses," Cohen counters. "I came because there are still some who doubt Blackwood. Reverend Miller, the Big A's, a few others. But we need Christine's testimony and your evidence about the silver mine." "Evidence is here," Christine confirms, touching the portfolio hidden in her borrowed Apache dress. "But Blackwood's men approach from the South Pass. They could arrive within hours. That's the other reason I came." Cohen lowers his voice. "El Cuchillo's raiders moved up their timetable. They're attacking at dusk today, not tomorrow." The news hits like physical blow. Preparations made suddenly inadequate, plans requiring revision. Tall Deer calls for immediate counsel. As Shadow Wolf joins the Apache leaders, Christine pulls Cohen aside. "How did you find us?" she asks. "Mrs. Bigay," he explains. "Her sister is married to a man in this band. She guided me part way, then pointed the trail, and Blackwood let you leave. He thinks I'm gathering medicines from the eastern hills." Cohen's smile holds no humor. "Old men become invisible when younger men plot glory," the council concludes quickly. Shadow Wolf returns with Tall Deer, whose leathery face bears the gravity of difficult decisions. "We face enemies on 2 sides now," Tall Deer says through Shadow Wolf's translation. Raiders from south, Blackwood from north. My people prepare for both. What about the settlement? Christine asks. They're still in danger. Some warriors will warn them, Shadow Wolf explains. Whether they listen? He leaves the thought unfinished. Cohen interjects. If Christine returns with me, testifies to what she found, Blackwood would arrest her immediately. Shadow Wolf cuts him off. Or worse, not if enough people stand with her, Cohen insists. Impasse settles between them until Christine speaks. The warrant mentions nothing about Dr. Cohen harboring fugitives. If I return hidden in his wagon, too dangerous, Shadow Wolf objects immediately. More dangerous than facing both Blackwood and raiders here, she counters. The settlement needs warning from someone they trust. Their eyes lock in silent battle of wills. Around them, Apache warriors prepare for conflict, stringing bows, checking rifles, painting faces with symbols of protection and strength. I go where I'm needed, Christine says finally. Just as you do. Something shifts in Shadow Wolf's expression, respect warring with concern. Then I come also. They'll shoot you on sight, Cohen warns. Not if we arrive before Blackwood returns, Christine reasons. And not if we bring proof of both threats, the raiders and the silver mine. Swift Knife approaches, face already painted for battle. Blackwood's riders have split, he reports. 10 continue here. 5 turned west, towards settlement. They're going to ensure the settlement remains undefended, Christine realizes. Keeping people confused until the raiders attack, Shadow Wolf nods grimly. Then our path is clear. He turns to Tall Deer speaking rapid Apache. The elder listens, then nods with reluctance. To Christine, Shadow Wolf explains, 6 warriors will accompany us. The rest prepare for Blackwood and raiders. As Christine gathers her few belongings, her fingers brush the portfolio containing the mining deed, evidence that might save lives if they can reach the settlement in time. If anyone will listen. Outside, Cohen's horse is already hitched to a small Apache travois, a simple but effective transport across rough terrain. Ready? Shadow Wolf asks, leading his pinto pony alongside. Christine meets his gaze, finding strength in the steady certainty she sees there. Yes, then we ride, he says, between storm clouds closing from both sides. They travel through ancient Apache trails, narrow passages between towering rocks, dry creek beds hidden from casual view, routes known only to those who hold the land's secrets. Christine rides in Cohen's wagon, concealed beneath canvas and medical supplies. Shadow Wolf and the 6 Apache warriors move like ghosts alongside, sometimes visible, sometimes melting into the landscape. We'll reach the settlement by mid-afternoon, Cohen murmurs, as they pause to rest the horses. Blackwood's men who turned west will arrive sooner. Christine sips water from a clay canteen, watching Shadow Wolf scout the path ahead. In Apache buckskin, with her hair braided simply, she barely recognizes herself. Her fingers find the small compartment she'd sewn into her boot months ago, a hiding place for her most precious possession. The silver cameo brooch, her mother's final gift, remains safely tucked inside. One small piece of her former life preserved. Will anyone even listen to me now? She wonders aloud. Cohen adjusts his spectacles. Truth has power, Christine, especially when people sense they've been deceived. Truth needs evidence, she counters, tapping the portfolio containing the mining deed, and witnesses who aren't afraid to speak. Shadow Wolf returns silently, kneeling beside their small circle. Riders ahead, 2 men, Blackwood's deputies. Can we avoid them? Cohen asks. No, they guard the only approach that doesn't expose us to settlement sentries. Christine makes a decision. I'll show myself. Draw them in. Too dangerous, Shadow Wolf objects. They're looking for a woman in Apache dress with Apache companions, she explains, already untying her borrowed buckskin top. Beneath it, she still wears her white cotton chemise. Not Dr. Cohen's assistant in a medical emergency. Understanding dawns in Cohen's eyes. Brilliant. I claim we're rushing to treat someone injured in the outer farms. While the Apache warriors conceal themselves, Christine transforms, shaking out her braids, smearing dirt on her face to suggest exhaustion rather than disguise. She tucks the portfolio into Cohen's medical bag and slips her mother's brooch onto her chemise, a small touch of civilization. Minutes later, they approach the deputies with Cohen driving and Christine beside him, head down as if weary. "Halt there!" The younger deputy raises his rifle. "Settlement's closed to traffic." Cohen affects irritation. "Nonsense. I'm responding to an emergency at the Gleason farm." "Childbirth complications." The deputies exchange glances. "Marshal's orders," the older one insists. "No one in or out. Since when does Blackwood countermand medical necessity?" Cohen demands. "You want Jane Gleason's death on your conscience, Adams?" The deputy named Adams shifts uncomfortably. "We heard rumors of Apache movement, Doc. Do you see any Apache?" Cohen gestures around expansively. "Just an old doctor and his assistant trying to deliver a baby." Christine keeps her face averted, playing the role of exhausted assistant. What's wrong with her? The younger deputy points at Christine. 3 days without proper sleep, Cohen snaps. "Now, are you going to delay us until we have a dead mother and child?" The mention of a child softens their stance. Adams lowers his rifle. "Go on through, Doc, but be careful." Strange things happening today. As they pass, Christine risks a quick glance backward. No sign of Shadow Wolf or the warriors, though she knows they watch from concealment. The settlement comes into view, transformed since her departure. Barricades block side streets. Armed men patrol rooftops. Faces peer anxiously from windows. "They're preparing for something," she whispers to Cohen. "But do they know what?" "Blackwood will have told them Apache raiders approach," Cohen replies grimly. "Not his silver mine partners." They stop behind the church, where Reverend Miller waits as arranged through Mrs. Begay's messenger. His eyes widen upon seeing Christine. "Thank the Lord," he breathes. "We feared the worst when Blackwood showed that warrant." "It's falsified," Christine says, slipping from the wagon. "Like much of what Blackwood has told you." Inside the church's back room, they find a small group waiting. The Begays, Wheeler the storekeeper, 3 farmers who've had past positive interactions with the Apache. "Where's Shadow Wolf?" Mrs. Begay asks. "Close," Christine answers. "But he'd be shot on sight now." She quickly explains everything: the silver mine deed, Blackwood's betrayal, the raiders approaching by dusk. Their faces register shock, then anger, then resolve. "We suspected something wasn't right," Wheeler says. "Blackwood has deputies confiscating ammunition, claiming it's for centralized defense. Leaves most folks unable to protect themselves. Perfect for raiders to overwhelm us," one farmer mutters, "or for the army to justify removing both settlers and Apache afterward." Reverend Miller adds grimly. A soft tap at the window reveals Shadow Wolf's face, then disappears. Seconds later, he slips through the back door, causing several people to flinch despite expecting him. "Blackwood returns," he reports. 5 riders, moving quickly. "We need to warn everyone," Christine insists. "With what proof?" Wheeler asks. "Half the town still trust Blackwood. They'll need more than accusations." Christine withdraws the silver mine deed. "This is evidence of his betrayal." And she hesitates, then removes her mother's brooch, pressing it into Mrs. Begay's hand. "This is my pledge that I speak truth. My last connection to my former life." The Apache woman studies the silver cameo, then pins it to Christine's chemise again. "Keep your treasure. Your word is enough for those with eyes to see." Shadow Wolf moves to the window again, scanning the street beyond. No time for more talk. Blackwood approaches church. Christine's heart pounds. "He's looking for us." "Then let him find us," Reverend Miller says with surprising steel. "But on our terms, not his," as if summoned by the words. "Impounding rattles the church's front doors. Time to face our enemy," Christine says, drawing strength from Shadow Wolf's steady presence beside her. Together, they move into the church proper, ready to confront the man who would sacrifice them all for silver. The church's main sanctuary falls silent as Christine steps from the back room. Afternoon light streams through stained glass, casting colored shadows across weathered pews, where a dozen settlers wait anxiously. Marshal Blackwood stands in the center aisle, flanked by 3 deputies. His momentary shock at seeing her gives way to calculating calm. "Mrs. Matthews, you've saved us the trouble of a search party." His hand rests casually on his holstered revolver. "Though I'm afraid you're under arrest for theft and conspiracy. The only conspiracy here is yours, Marshal," Christine's voice carries to the rafters. "With silver mine investors and raiders who'll murder everyone in this settlement by nightfall," murmurs ripple through the gathered settlers. Blackwood's face hardens. "She's delusional," he announces, "clearly affected by her captivity among savages." His gaze sweeps the room. "Speaking of which, where is her Apache friend?" "I'm here." Shadow Wolf steps from the shadows, causing deputies to reach for weapons. He remains empty-handed, making no threatening moves. Blackwood's badge catches the light as he turns, the silver star tarnished around its edges. Like the authority it represents, Christine thinks, corroded from within. "Arrest them both," Blackwood orders his men. "Wait!" Reverend Miller steps forward, Bible in hand. "These are serious accusations, Marshal. Shouldn't we hear the evidence?" "Evidence?" Blackwood laughs harshly. "From a school teacher who's abandoned her post? From an Apache with every reason to divide us?" Christine withdraws the mining deed from Cohen's medical bag. "This document bears your signature, Marshal. It grants Silver Basin Mining Company rights to land that includes both Salvation Creek and Apache territory. Payment contingent upon clear title, no occupants." She passes it to Wheeler, who examines it before handing it to others. The paper moves through anxious hands while Blackwood's expression darkens. "That proves nothing," he insists. "Exploring mining opportunities benefits everyone." "Exploring, perhaps," Dr. Cohen interjects, "but arranging for raiders to drive us out. For the army to remove the Apache, that benefits only you and your investors." The eldest deputy, Adams, looks troubled. "Marshal, what's he talking about?" "Lies," Blackwood snaps. "The Apache attacked tonight. We have reliable intelligence from El Cuchillo's men." Christine interrupts. "The same raiders you've been meeting secretly for weeks." Adams steps away from Blackwood, confusion evident. "Marshal?" Blackwood's hand moves to his badge, fingers tracing its outline. "Sometimes progress requires difficult choices," he says, voice hardening. "This territory can't advance with scattered settlements and Apache controlling the best land. The mining operation would bring jobs, civilization, to a ghost town." Wheeler demands. "After we're dead or driven off." Tension thickens as understanding dawns across faces throughout the church. Blackwood senses control slipping away. "Enough!" he shouts, drawing his revolver. "I am still the law here. Deputies, arrest these traitors." The younger deputies comply, moving forward uncertainly. But Adams remains still, hand moving to his own weapon. "Put the gun down, Marshal," he says quietly. "This isn't right. You too, Adams." Blackwood's laugh holds no humor. "After all my promises about your share?" The admission silences the room. Blackwood realizes his mistake too late. In the frozen moment that follows, Shadow Wolf moves, not toward Blackwood, but to the church's center. "Listen," he addresses the settlers directly, his calm voice contrasting with Blackwood's growing rage. "Raiders come by dusk, not Apache. Men who kill without honor, Mexican white renegade Apache together. They attack settlement, blame my people, take what they want. Why should we believe you?" Someone calls from the pews. "Because Shadow Wolf warned us about influenza last winter," Mrs. Begay answers. "Because he guided wagons through drought. Because he has never spoken false to us. And because some of his warriors are already positioned to help defend us," Christine adds, "despite years of mistrust." Blackwood's control finally shatters. He rips the badge from his vest, flinging it to the wooden floor. "You simple fools! The Apache will slaughter you while you sleep. The raiders will burn your homes. The only safe path is mine. Path that leads to your wealth alone," Shadow Wolf replies evenly. "True power protects those who cannot protect themselves. It does not sacrifice them." Something snaps in Blackwood's eyes. He swings his revolver toward Shadow Wolf, finger tightening on the trigger. Christine moves without thinking, placing herself between them. "No more!" The church erupts in motion, Adams tackling Blackwood, the revolver discharging harmlessly into a ceiling beam, settlers rushing forward to restrain the corrupt marshal. In the chaos, Shadow Wolf guides Christine aside, his hand steady on her arm. "Brave," he murmurs, "but foolish." I'm learning from you, she counters with shaky smile. With Blackwood subdued, Christine addresses the stunned congregation. We have perhaps 3 hours before raiders arrive. Not enough time for help from Fort Bowie. We must prepare ourselves. And trust Apache. Someone challenges. Trust those who've proven trustworthy, she answers. Judge by actions, not fears. Shadow Wolf steps forward, commanding attention without raising his voice. My warrior's watch approaches already. We know raiders' ways. Together, we stand better chance than apart. Wheeler picks up Blackwood's discarded badge, turning it thoughtfully in his hands. Seems we need new leadership, he observes, looking meaningfully between Christine and Shadow Wolf. As the church empties, people hurrying to prepare defenses. Christine finds herself standing with Shadow Wolf in a pool of colored light from the stained glass window. You could have killed him, she observes. When he drew his weapon. That is old power, Shadow Wolf answers. Power that takes life. I choose new power. What kind? His eyes hold hers. Power that protects life, that builds instead of breaks. He gestures to the settlers and Apache now working together outside. Power stronger than one man alone. In that moment, Christine finally understands what he meant on that first night. True power isn't in weapons or authority, but in the courage to build bridges where others have only built walls. Salvation Creek transforms under shared purpose. Settler and Apache work side by side, barricading streets, positioning shooters, evacuating the vulnerable to the sturdy stone church. The settlement becomes a fortress in less than 2 hours. Raiders expect disorganized targets, Shadow Wolf explains as he, Christine, and the newly formed Defense Council gather around a crude map in the schoolhouse. Instead, they find prepared defenders. How many can we expect? Deputy Adams asks, awkwardly filling the leadership void left by Blackwood's imprisonment in his own jail. 30, perhaps more, Shadow Wolf answers. Mixed group. Mexican bandits, American deserters, renegades from several tribes, all following El Cuchillo for promise of easy plunder. Christine moves small stones across the map, marking defensive positions. Her fingers brush against something soft beneath the bench. A child's forgotten rag doll with button eyes and yarn hair. She places it on the windowsill, a reminder of what they fight to protect. The dam remains our greatest vulnerability, she points out. If they destroy it, no water, no settlement. Wheeler finishes grimly. Shadow Wolf nods. 6 Apache already guarded. Need 6 more with rifles. Dr. Cohen clears his throat. What about Blackwood's deputies who were headed to your camp? Could they circle back to support the raiders? My people will keep them occupied, Shadow Wolf assures him. But we should expect raiders to approach from multiple directions. Christine studies the settlement layout, seeing it through new eyes trained by Shadow Wolf to spot weaknesses, advantages, lines of sight. We need elevated positions here, here, and here, she indicates. Archers on the stable roof, silent until the first rifle shots. Swift Knife, who has reluctantly joined the council as liaison to the Apache warriors, raises an eyebrow at her tactical thinking. The woman teacher knows battle. She learns quickly, Shadow Wolf replies, a hint of pride in his voice. They distribute their limited resources, rifles to experienced shooters, bows to those with steady hands, defensive positions to the strongest. Every adult receives an assignment. Even children old enough to run messages are given roles. Outside, clouds gather again on the western horizon. Another storm approaches, as if nature itself joins the coming battle. Christine finds Mrs. Begay organizing women in the church, preparing bandages and water. We're converting the schoolroom to a secondary infirmary, Christine tells her. Closer to where fighting might be heaviest, Mrs. Begay nods, then hesitates. The men speak of you differently now, because I'm helping organize defenses. Because you stand between worlds, as Shadow Wolf does. The older woman's eyes hold knowing wisdom. Few can bridge such gaps. Before Christine can respond, Shadow Wolf appears in the doorway. Time to check positions, he tells her. Storm comes soon. They walk the settlement perimeter together, adjusting defenses, encouraging volunteers whose determination masks their fear. Christine notices how naturally they work together. his insights complementing hers, her questions sharpening his thinking. Between them, something new has formed, a partnership forged in crisis. At the schoolhouse-turned-infirmary, Dr. Cohen sorts medical supplies. The ragdoll still sits on the windowsill, watching with button eyes. "Do you think we can hold against 30 raiders?" Christine asks Shadow Wolf quietly. "Depends," he replies, checking the room's defensibility. "If they expect easy targets, they may break when resistance proves strong. If they commit fully," his expression completes the thought. "Blackwood is demanding to speak with us," Cohen mentions. "Says he has information about El Cuchillo's tactics." Shadow Wolf's face hardens. "Information with price attached." "Likely," Christine agrees. "But we need every advantage." They find Blackwood in his cell, surprisingly composed despite his fall from power. His eyes track them like a predator studying prey. "Come to gloat?" he asks, lounging on the narrow cot. "Come to listen," Christine corrects, "if you have something worth saying." Blackwood smiles thinly. El Cuchillo attacks in waves, probing first, then feinting from one direction while hitting from another. But his real target will be the dam. "We've already strengthened defenses there," Shadow Wolf says. "Not enough." Blackwood leans forward. "He has dynamite, stolen from mining operations south of here." Christine exchanges alarmed glances with Shadow Wolf. "Explosives would change everything." "Why tell us this?" she demands. "Because dead people can't testify against me." Blackwood's practical tone chills her. "I still have friends in the territorial government. All I need is reasonable doubt and your deaths. You would let everyone die for your freedom." Christine asks, disgusted. "Not everyone." Blackwood's smile returns. "Just the troublemakers. Like you two." Thunder rumbles outside, closer now. Shadow Wolf touches Christine's arm, guiding her from the jail. "He speaks truth about dynamite," he says once they're outside. "El Cuchillo used it at Nogales. We must adjust plans." As if punctuating his words, a distant rifle shot cracks through the gathering gloom. Then another. "It begins," Shadow Wolf says, his expression shifting to battle readiness. Throughout the settlement, defenders move to positions. Christine retrieves the bow Shadow Wolf gave her, slinging it across her back, alongside a quiver of arrows. "Stay with Dr. Cohen," Shadow Wolf tells her. "Organize wounded communications." "I can fight," she insists. "You can lead," he counters. More important now, another shot rings out closer. A young Apache runs toward them, face painted for battle. "Riders approaching from South Draw," he reports rapidly. 20, maybe more." Shadow Wolf nods. "And others will circle from east, while attention fixed southward." To Christine, he adds, "Remember what I taught you. Trust your instincts." "Be careful," she tells him, fighting the urge to say more. His hand briefly clasps hers. "We finish this conversation after battle." As he moves away, blending with shadows despite the fading light, Christine touches her mother's brooch for courage. Then she turns toward the schoolhouse, where the ragdoll keeps silent vigil over preparations for the wounded yet to come. The storm breaks overhead as the first raiders appear on the southern ridge. Gunfire erupts across. Salvation Creek's raiders strike from multiple directions. Christine works alongside Dr. Cohen in the schoolhouse-turned-infirmary, her hands already bloodied from treating the first casualties. Outside, the storm unleashes its fury, lightning illuminating chaotic scenes of combat. Thunder masking the screams of wounded. "They're testing our defenses," Adams reports, ducking into the schoolhouse with a bullet graze across his shoulder. "Probing for weaknesses, just like Blackwood said." Christine cleans his wound quickly. "Where's Shadow Wolf?" Coordinating Apache warriors near the livery. "Raiders tried breaking through there twice already." Adams winces as she applies antiseptic. "Never thought I'd be fighting alongside Apache. Never thought Apache would defend settler homes," she counters, securing a bandage. "Yet here we are. A tremendous explosion rocks the settlement, powerful enough to rattle windows. Go and steadies a lamp before it can topple." "The dam?" Christine asks, dread rising. Adams shakes his head. "Wheeler's store. They hit our ammunition cache, but we'd already moved most supplies." A young Apache runner appears at the door, rain streaming from his hair. "Shadow Wolf needs you," he tells Christine. Dam defense. Go, Cohen urges. Mrs. Begay can assist me. Christine grabs her bow and medical kit, following the runner through rain-slicked alleys and defensive positions. Twice they pause as raiders' bullets strike nearby. Once Christine looses an arrow toward a mounted figure, drawing a cry of pain before he retreats. They reach a storage shed overlooking the creek approach to the dam. Inside, Shadow Wolf kneels beside a crude map spread across upturned crates, corners darkened with blood from a wound on his forearm. 4 Apache warriors and 3 settlers listen intently as he outlines positions. Christine, he acknowledges without looking up. Raiders make main push for dam now. 6 men with dynamite approach from East Ravine. His finger traces the route on the blood-stained map. Current defenders cannot hold alone. She assesses his wounded arm. Let me bandage that before later, he cuts her off. Need your eyes, you're thinking now. The simple trust in her abilities touches Christine more than any words of affection could. She studies the map, noting defensive positions, approaches, vulnerabilities. They'll expect us to defend from elevated positions, she says, indicating the obvious lookout points. What if we set a trap here instead? Her finger points to a narrow passage where the creek runs beneath an overhang. Shadow Wolf nods slowly. Ambush from below, unexpected. To the others, he issues rapid instructions, half to remain visible on high ground, half to join the creek bed ambush. As defenders move to positions, Shadow Wolf finally allows Christine to bind his arm. The gash runs deep, but has missed anything vital. El Cuchillo leads this attack himself, he tells her as she works. Rare means he fears failure, or values the prize greatly, she counters. Same meaning. Shadow Wolf checks his rifle, a modern Winchester rather than traditional bow. You remain here, coordinate between groups. And you? His expression softens momentarily. I do what must be done. Before she can protest, chaos erupts again, raiders charging the dam approach with greater numbers than before. Shadow Wolf joins defenders at the creek ambush position, while Christine maintains communication between groups. Running messages and supplies where needed, the battle intensifies, focused now on the crucial dam. Christine watches in horror as 3 raiders break through defenses, dynamite visible in their saddlebags. She raises her bow, leading the first rider as Shadow Wolf taught her, and releases. The arrow finds its mark, sending the raider tumbling from his horse. The others continue forward. From concealment, Shadow Wolf and his ambush team strike, catching the remaining raiders in deadly crossfire. But one rider, distinctive in a blood-red bandana, pushes through, reaching the dam's edge, El Cuchillo himself. The raider leader's scarred face contorts with rage as he lights the dynamite fuse. Without hesitation, Shadow Wolf breaks from cover, charging directly at the raider chief. Christine cries out warning, but her voice drowns in thunder and gunfire. The 2 men collide at the dam's edge, Shadow Wolf tackling El Cuchillo before he can place the explosives. The dynamite tumbles from the raider's grip, rolling dangerously close to the edge as they grapple. Lightning flashes, illuminating their struggle. El Cuchillo's knife gleams as he plunges it toward Shadow Wolf's chest. Shadow Wolf deflects but loses balance. Both men tumble over the dam's edge, disappearing into churning waters below. No. Christine abandons her position, racing toward the dam. Gunfire follows her path, bullets striking stone as raiders press their advantage. At the dam's edge, she finds nothing but rain-slick stone and roiling water below. No sign of either man. A tremendous explosion rocks the valley, but not from the dam. The dynamite has detonated downstream, harmlessly away from the critical structure. The battle shifts as raiders, seeing their leader fall and their primary objective fail, begin to retreat. Defenders press the advantage, forcing them back on multiple fronts. Christine barely notices. She scans the churning creek below, desperate for any sign of Shadow Wolf, nothing but white water and storm debris. Deputy Adams appears beside her, rifle ready. Was that Shadow Wolf who went over? She nods mutely, still searching the waters. Saved the dam, Adams acknowledges soberly. Saved us all. The words crystallize her fear into determination. Shadow Wolf had survived hardship, imprisonment, prejudice. He would not fall to water and stone. Ignoring Adam's protests, Christine scrambles down the steep bank toward the creek bed, following the water's path. If Shadow Wolf lives, she will find him. If not, she refuses to complete the thought as rain and tears blind her vision equally. Dawn breaks over Salvation Creek, pale light revealing the battle's aftermath. Buildings stand pockmarked with bullet holes. Blood stains the muddy streets, yet the settlement itself endures. The dam intact, most structures standing, defenders victorious despite the cost. Christine barely notices. For hours, she has searched the creek banks, moving downstream as hope diminishes with each passing minute. Her clothing, still damp from yesterday's storm, clings uncomfortably. Her voice grows hoarse from calling his name. Behind her, a small search party follows, tall deer and 2 young Apache warriors, joined by Deputy Adams and Reverend Miller. They respect her need to lead this search, understanding what drives her forward despite exhaustion. The current was strong, Adams says gently. After that fall, he's alive, Christine cuts him off, her tone allowing no argument. Shadow Wolf understands water, respects its power. They reach a bend where the creek widens, creating a natural pool before continuing its journey. Debris from the storm has collected here, branches, leaves, a shattered piece of the raider's wagon. Christine. Tall Deer's voice draws her attention. The elder points to disturbed mud along the bank, barely visible marks that most would overlook. She kneels, heart quickening. Someone pulled themselves out here. The Apache warriors fan out, reading signs invisible to settler eyes. One calls out, indicating a direction through riverside brush. Christine follows immediately, pushing through tangled vegetation, ignoring scratches from thorns and branches. 10 yards in, the brush opens to a small clearing beneath cottonwood trees. There, propped against a fallen log, sits Shadow Wolf. His buckskin shirt is torn, revealing a deep knife wound across his ribs. His face, unnaturally pale beneath its natural copper tone, bears new cuts. But his chest rises and falls with steady breath. And his eyes, those eyes that have looked into her soul, open at her approach. "Christine," he says, voice weak but clear. She falls to her knees beside him, hands immediately checking his wounds. "Don't speak. Save your strength." A ghost of a smile touches his lips. "Strong enough to find shore, to wait for you. You knew I would search. It's not a question, as I would search for you." His hand opens, revealing a small leather pouch, his medicine bundle, somehow retained through raging waters and desperate struggle. "El cuchillo?" she asks, pressing a cloth against his bleeding side. "Gone to ancestors, or wherever such men go." Shadow Wolf winces as she applies pressure. "Creek took him." Rocks finished what water began. The others arrive, relief visible on their faces. Tall Deer kneels opposite Christine, examining Shadow Wolf's wounds with experienced eyes. He speaks rapid Apache, reaching for the medicine bundle. He says, "I will live," Shadow Wolf translates wryly, "though I may wish otherwise during healing." Together, they fashion a travois from branches and blankets. As warriors and settlers work side by side to transport Shadow Wolf, Christine walks alongside, her hand never leaving his. "The settlement?" he asks. "Standing," she assures him. "Raiders retreated after you and El Cuchillo fell. By midnight they were gone, and Blackwood, under guard. A territorial marshal arrives tomorrow to transport him for trial." Her expression darkens. "Though I fear his friends in government may yet shield him. Truth has its own power," Shadow Wolf replies. "As does what we built yesterday, what they built." Christine looks at Apache and settlers working together, boundaries dissolved by shared struggle. Something unprecedented in this territory's bloody history. They reach the settlement by mid-morning. News of Shadow Wolf's survival spreads rapidly, drawing crowds despite the reconstruction work underway. Apache families emerge from hiding places to join the growing celebration. Dr. Cohen takes charge of Shadow Wolf's care, moving him to the main bedroom of Christine's cabin, the most private space available. As he works, Christine steps outside to find Tall Deer waiting. You have something to ask, she observes, recognizing his contemplative expression. What happens now? The elder asks. A battle won, enemy defeated. Old patterns would have us return to separation. Christine considers the medicine bundle Shadow Wolf had clutched through raging waters, symbols of healing, of tradition, yet carried into an uncertain future. Perhaps new patterns are possible, she suggests. Your people need secure land. We need water access, trade. Territorial government will not honor such agreements, Tall Deer notes skeptically, not without pressure. Christine straightens, decision crystallizing. But a settlement and tribe standing together with evidence of corruption involving government officials. That might force concessions. Tall Deer studies her, weathered face unreadable. You speak like one with stake in both worlds. Perhaps I am. She touches her mother's brooch, then glances toward her cabin where Shadow Wolf rests. If both worlds are willing, a hint of a smile creases the elder's face. He is stubborn, but not blind. Inside, Christine finds Shadow Wolf sleeping, medicine bundle placed carefully beside him. Gowan finishes bandaging the knife wound. He'll recover, the doctor assures her. Man has remarkable constitution. He has remarkable everything, she murmurs. Left alone with Shadow Wolf, Christine sits beside the bed, watching his chest rise and fall. Outside, voices of Apache and settler blend as reconstruction begins. Walls rebuilt, roofs repaired, a new foundation laid. Shadow Wolf's eyes open, finding hers immediately. You should rest, he tells her. I will, she promises. When you're stronger. His hand finds hers, fingers intertwining. My power, he says softly, is stronger with you beside me. Christine leans forward, pressing her forehead gently against his. An Apache gesture of connection she has learned, as is mine with you. Through the window, first light touches Salvation Creek, illuminating not what was, but what might yet be. 1 year later, the settlement no longer answers to Salvation Creek. Harmony Creek reads the freshly painted sign at the approach, with Apache symbols carved beneath English letters, different languages expressing shared purpose. Christine adjusts her shawl against the autumn breeze as she walks toward the schoolhouse. The building has doubled in size, with new windows filling the classroom with light. Inside, children of both communities learn together, arithmetic and literature alongside tracking and desert medicine. Very impressive, she smiles. Remember his instructions about practice. Every day, with respect for the bow's power. Tommy recites dutifully. Christine continues toward the boundary stone where monthly council meetings occur. No longer secret negotiations, but public discussions between equal parties. The stone itself stands as testimony to change, its fresh carvings declaring two peoples, one land, in both writing systems. She finds Tall Deer already there, speaking with Reverend Miller and Deputy Adams. Now, Sheriff Adams, since the territorial government reluctantly recognized the settlement's right to select its own leadership. The hunting agreement works well, Adams is saying. No disputes this season. Tall Deer nods, satisfaction evident despite his reserved manner. Water rights also respected. Drought comes, yet all have enough. Christine, Reverend Miller greets her. We were just discussing next month's territorial hearing. Any word from the capital? She asks, concern edging her voice. Governor's office remains opposed, Adams admits. But 3 newspapers now follow our story. Public opinion shifts, and Blackwood. Miller's expression sours. Still awaiting trial. His mining partners have money for endless delays. Truth requires patience, Tall Deer observes. Like good crops, their conversation pauses as riders approach from the eastern trail. Shadow Wolf, leading several Apache men returning from a joint patrol with settlement rangers. The arrangement keeps both communities safer than either could manage alone. Christine's heart still quickens, watching him ride. Straight-backed and confident, no longer caught between worlds, but helping build a bridge between them. Shadow Wolf dismounts smoothly, though Christine notices he favors his right side, where El Cuchillo's knife left its mark. Some wounds heal slowly, leaving reminders etched in flesh and memory. Riders from Fort Bowie, he reports to the gathered council. Army captain, 6 soldiers, civilian in Eastern clothes. The Indian Affairs Commissioner, Miller realizes. Earlier than expected. Good, Adams declares. Let him see what we've built before politicians try dismantling it. As others prepare for the official visit, Shadow Wolf joins Christine by the boundary stone. His hand finds hers naturally, fingers intertwining. Nervous, he asks. Determined, she corrects. They need to understand this isn't an experiment. It's our life now. Shadow Wolf's thumb traces the silver band on her finger, plain and unadorned, like the matching one he wears. Their ceremony 6 months ago had blended traditions. Reverend Miller and Tall Deer jointly blessing a union once unthinkable in this territory. Not everyone approved. Some settlers left, uncomfortable with new arrangements. Some Apache chose distant reservations, unwilling to trust promises from any white government. But enough remained, believing something better could grow from blood-soaked ground. Remember when you asked what power I meant? Shadow Wolf says, eyes on the approaching dust cloud that announces the commissioner's party. I remember everything about that night, she responds, thinking of rain-soaked confessions in a canyon cave, of boundaries crossed that could never be re-established. This is that power. He gestures toward the settlement, Apache children playing with settler children, women of both communities working the communal garden, men building a new structure with techniques from both traditions. Not to destroy or dominate, to create. A small figure races toward them, Lily, a 6-year-old Apache orphan they've taken into their home. Her dark eyes shine with excitement beneath hair, braided in the style Christine's mother once used for her. Father! Mother, horse is coming, she announces importantly. Shadow Wolf lifts her easily, settling her on his shoulders. Yes, little one. Important visitors. Will they make us leave? The question reflects fears whispered among children, despite adults' attempts to shield them. No, Christine says firmly, meeting Shadow Wolf's gaze. This is our home. All of ours. As the commissioner's party approaches, the 3 of them stand before the boundary stone, not as representatives of separate worlds, but as family forged from both. Tonight you'll learn my power, Shadow Wolf had said that first evening, his words carrying threat and mystery to a woman who knew him only through others' fears. Now Christine understands completely. True power lies not in weapons or authority, but in the courage to build where others would divide, to love where others would hate, to stand firm where others would surrender. As sunset paints the desert in familiar gold and crimson, Christine Matthews, teacher, bridge builder, beloved, takes her husband's hand and steps forward to defend the future they've created together.